Hey everyone, in this video we are going to learn about server actions in Next.js, and this concept of server actions was introduced only in Next.js 14. So we are going to learn this very new over here. Okay, here in Next.js 14 we create something called as server actions, which we will be learning in this video. Stay till the end so that you can get the complete value out of it, and you will be able to learn server actions in this one video. Alright, so let's create a particular file over here to add a note. Okay, so in the last video we already created this model to store our note in our database using MongoDB. So we are going to play around with it using some like CRUD operations behind it. So let's create one form in order to add a note to our database. Okay, so I'm going to the app directory, and remember I explained you the Next.js file based routing. So based on that we are going to create a route called as add. Okay, so inside that I'm going to create a page.tsx. okay, so all the contents will be rendered on /add. okay, so page.tsx, and over there let me sketch out a component called let's say add note. Okay, so within this div we are going to create a note, okay, just to take in the content and the description of the node that we created in the last video. So remember that. Okay, so we already created the model for that, which will accept the title and the content in order to store in our database, and then later we'll be listing all of our nodes on our front end. Okay, that is the main route. So let's go to our add route and create a form over there. So we will be styling this wrapper element a little bit. Okay, so in order to make it look fair. Okay, so not just like a simple HTML input tag, right? So let's style this using Tailwind CSS. I'm going to give it a class name of margin on the y-axis 4. Okay, just to have a margin of separation, and also going to give it a little bit of padding of 4. Okay, so if you don't understand anything, if you just hover on this, you will get the information of what class is being applied using Tailwind IntelliSense. Okay, so you can go ahead and download the extension for that, so you can understand each and every Tailwind class that I'm using. Okay, so let's give this a background of gray and of a variant of 100, just a light gray background for our form, and let's give it a rounded medium just to add some border radius. All right, and also let's give it some shadow. Okay, shadow of medium. Okay, so inside this div let's create our heading of add note. Okay, so I'm going to give this a h2 tag and saying add note, and I'm going to give this certain class names of, let's say, giving it a little extra large text. Okay, so 2XL, and then going to give it a font of bold, and then going to give some margin on the bottom. Okay, so MB4. okay, just to make it look good, and right inside this div we are going to render our form element. Okay, so I guess I need to turn off the scope highlight. I usually forget every time I record a video. So disable completions, and let's go below this and create our form tag. This action is basically something which is going to call a particular function inside this, that is the server action. Okay, so server actions, as I told, it is nothing but a function which will be called once we submit the form. Okay, so keep this in mind. I repeat again, server action is nothing but a function which will be called once we submit the form, and in order to call that function, we need to specify the name of the function within this action attribute. Okay, so let's call that create note. Okay, so right inside the form let's give an input tag which will take in certain things like type text, and going to give it a name which is very important, and going to give it title, and then we are going to give it a placeholder of, let's say, title, and then finally we are going to give it certain class names in order to style it. So I'm going to give it a full width. Okay, so w dash full, and going to give certain padding, and going to give it a border. Okay, just a simple border, and going to give it a border radius of rounded medium, like this. And inside this input tag, okay, we're not going to like give it anything inside. Okay, so this is a self-closing tag, and also we are going to duplicate this for the for the description of this. Okay, so if I just save this will auto format, and let me just duplicate this another time. Okay, so I don't know how does it work in Mac, but I'll just try to duplicate this and replace this with description, and then going to give it a placeholder description, Okay, so the same class names will apply here as well, and this is actually going to be a text area. Okay, so my bad. So this should be since we'll be giving a larger input for this to describe the note, so text area, and I'm going to give it certain rows, okay, over here of 4 maybe. Okay, so this is going to be we don't need a like a type text, okay, because this is default be a text box. Okay, so I just realized within our DB we just call this as content. Okay, so we can also replace that here with content. Okay, so I just forgot about that. Alright, so we have completed. Let's finally create a button to submit the form. So button, and let's give this name of add note like this, and style it a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to give this a background of blue of a variant 500. Okay, then I'm going to give it a text white. By default it will be black, so I'm going to turn it white, and then give it a padding on the horizontal of 3 and on the vertical of 1. Okay, I'm going to around giving it a border radius, and finally when we hover on this it should become a little brighter. Okay, so when you hover on this we are going to copy this and just make it a little brighter, okay, of let's say maybe 600, and add note. Okay, so our form is done. Let's finally go ahead and create our very first server action of this project. So now let's go at the top of the return statement and create a function of this name that we assigned an action to this form called as create note. Okay, so this will be an async function. Okay, so we need to mark this async function create note, and this is going to receive the form data. So whatever you enter inside this form and you submit, right, all of this will be received in the form of a form data over here. Okay, so let's receive that, and this will be of the type form data. Alright, so let's open the function body, and here the very big distinction here needs to be made is we need to mark this particular function as a server component. Okay, so how do we do that? We have a directive, remember, like use client. Similarly, we have a directive especially for in Next.js called as use server. Okay, so this is not applicable like for JavaScript or anything. Just to make sure that this is a server action, we are going to mark this as server component, server function, and this will be called, this function will be called whenever we submit this form. All right, so we have marked this as use server, and now let's grab the elements of our form, okay, whatever the user has inputted. Okay, so let's store that in a variable called title, and not like this, title, and set this equal to form data dot get. Okay, so this is a function which will get based on the name that you assign to this form. So we have given it a name of title, so we need to get that by the name of title, and also let's do the same for the description, the content. Okay, so like this. Okay, so now I just want to connect this to the database. Okay, so in order to play with the database, first you need to connect it. Okay, so we already talked about this in the last video. So let's import the connect to db function, connect to db like this, and we just need to call it, and now we can make our very first action to our database. Okay, that is to create a particular record in it. Okay, so we are going to await on this and call the note model. Okay, so that also we need to import it, so I'm going to auto import it. So the note model that is coming from our model / notes model, that is right here, that we created in the last video, and we are going to create a particular record, right? So we have a create function right here, and we are going to pass in our title and our content. Okay, so title and our content. Since these two values are the same, we do not need to assign like a key value. So this is like a ES6 feature, right? So content like this, and let's save this, and let's store this in a particular variable. Okay, since this will give us the result of whatever the action we make. So I'll call this response, and I want to just have a look at the response that once we create a record to our database. Okay, so let's log it, and let's finally redirect the user back to the home page after this. Okay, so remember in React we used to import something called as use navigate in order to navigate after inside a function to some other page after action done, right? So here we need to import that from next/navigation. So let's go ahead and do that. So import redirect next/navigation like this. Next. Okay, so let's redirect the user back to the home page. Okay, like so. Alright, so that's done. I guess I just made a mistake. So this should be inside a curly braces. Okay, so since this is a function and not a string, so this is our first server action that we made in our project. Okay, so this will I'll just give you a small summary. So first is we receive the form data, and this function will be called once we submit the form. So it will receive the form data, we get the data, then we connect to a database and create the particular node based on those two values that we receive. Okay, and then finally we redirect the user back to the home page. Okay, so this is the function that we created, and let's go ahead and test this out. This is our localhost 3000. Remember we created this route of /add. Okay, so which will render the form. So when I click on /add, so this is our form. I know it's not looking the best. Maybe I should have given some margin on the left and the right. Okay, so it's fair enough. Okay, so let me just go ahead and add a title and our content to our database. So before that I'll just open our console. Okay, so let's add a title of test title and a description of this is a sample description or content. Alright, so when I click on add note, it should create a record in our database. So click on add note. So actually we don't get any response in our client. Okay, so we need to check our terminal. Okay, so that will give us a status whether the record has been created or not. Okay, so finally we just got an error as usual. So let's check this out. So actually I forgot to add in the IP address for my MongoDB cluster, so that is why it was failing to add a record over there. So if you haven't added your IP address, you can just add in your current IP address, and or you can just set it to 0.0 and make it accessible by anywhere. So since this is a test project, we can just set this up later, and after that once I go to /add, okay, and then try to create a note, we get a console log over here with the test title and our description. Okay, so once you create that, you are going to get this log once you log the response to the console, which means that our record is been successfully created. Okay, so you see that we made a post request to /add, and also we are going to get the content again. Okay, so this is the test title, the description, and the this is the object ID which will be assigned to every record that we create in MongoDB. Alright, so this is all about server actions in this video. So if we go to our MongoDB and browse our collections over there, we should actually see our particular node being created over there. Okay, so we can go to this notes, and you see that the test title and the description that we actually created over here. Okay, so which means that everything is working fine and our server action is just working as expected. All right, so I know you might not understand like why does this make sense and what additional benefits does this server action offer us. Okay, so we are going to talk about more on this in the next video. Okay, so we have created our very first action, so this is the main intent of this video. Okay, so let's move on to the next video, and let's understand server actions more in detail. Okay, so see you there.